I didn't see light for 21 days. I think when they finally pulled me out of there, I couldn't remember my own name. And the thing is, like, I still can't look at closed doors without my hands starting to shake. You know what I mean? And here's the worst part. I went there myself. I bought the ticket. I said yes. I was 19 that summer. Tippa just finished my first year studying medicine, and I was so broke it physically hurt, you know? Like, I'd eat one meal a day and tell myself it was intermittent fasting or whatever. I was working 3 jobs, coffee shop mornings, tutoring afternoons, bartending weekends, and I was still $7,000 short for next semester. My mom kept saying, just take a year off. But I couldn't let myself fall behind, because then I'd never catch up, right? MD, that's what I told myself anyway. So when Christina, this girl I barely knew from psychology class, when she messaged me about this opportunity, I was like, Tippa, yeah, obviously I'm interested. She said her cousin's friend worked for this hospitality company that staffed private events for wealthy clients, islands, yachts, that kind of thing. And they needed girls for the summer season. Attractive, educated, professional. Those were the exact words. And the pay was $10,000 for 4 weeks. I remember staring at that number until my vision went blurry. $10,000. That was my tuition. That was my entire problem solved in 1 month. Red flags? Croce. Yeah, there were red flags. Like the fact that the job description was super vague. Hospitality services and client entertainment, whatever that meant. Or that they wanted to fly me out within 48 hours. Or the NDA I had to sign before they'd even tell me the location. But I convinced myself this was just how rich people operated. Privacy, exclusivity, and all that. Tip up. I had read articles about billionaires and their weird security protocols. This seemed normal for that world, you know? The airport, MD. I remember the airport so clearly, it's like a photograph I can't throw away. Private terminal at JFK. Not the main one where normal people go. This separate entrance with no signs. Just an address Christina gave me. And there were 6 other girls there, all young. Early 20s probably. One girl had this incredibly intricate nail art. Little palm trees and crystals. Another was taking selfies in front of the private jet. Actual private jet. I'd never seen one up close before. It was white with tinted windows, and it smelled like leather and money inside. We were all so excited, Tipa, giggling and nervous and talking about what we'd spend the money on. The girl with the palm tree nails. She kept saying, "This is so surreal," and taking videos for her Instagram story. Except they told us no phones once we landed. Client privacy policy. We had to put them in these locked bags before takeoff. I remember hesitating with my phone in my hand. Just this little voice in my head going, "Don't." But everyone else was doing it, so I did too. MD cheated peer pressure at 19 is an incredibly powerful thing. The flight was 4 hours. And they served us champagne and fancy little appetizers, strawberries with real gold flakes on them. I saved the plastic fork as a souvenir because I thought this was the beginning of something glamorous. Croce. I still have that fork. It's in a box under my bed with all the evidence I can't throw away but can't look at either. When we landed, the island, Tipu, it was beautiful in this overwhelming way that made your chest tight. Turquoise water, white sand, palm trees moving slow in the breeze. There was a dock with 3 speedboats and this massive white mansion up on the hill. Looked like something from a resort magazine. There were men waiting for us at the dock, older, late 40s, 50s, wearing polo shirts and sunglasses. They smiled too much, called us ladies in this tone that made my skin crawl, but I couldn't explain why. They drove us up to the mansion in golf carts. And the whole time, this one guy, shaved head, American accent, he kept looking at me in the rearview mirror, not at my face. And I remember crossing my arms over my chest and staring at my lap. And my body knew before my brain did. The mansion was obscene, honestly. Marble, everything. Chandeliers. This infinity pool that seemed to pour directly into the ocean. But there were cameras. I counted 12 just in the main entrance. Little black domes on the ceiling. They told us it was for security. Client safety is our top priority. Tipa, yeah, their safety, not ours. They showed us to our rooms, except they weren't really rooms, more like dormitory. All of us in one large space with bunk beds and shared bathroom. And there was a lock on the door, on the outside. I noticed it immediately, pointed it out to one of the girls, and she laughed and said, probably to keep us from sneaking out to the pool at night. And we were so stupid. God, we were so stupid. Orientation was that evening. They sat us down in this conference room. White walls, long table, water bottles with the caps already removed, and this woman, British accent, business suit, cold eyes. She explained our duties. We'd be attending private dinners, parties, yacht excursions. Our job was to be attentive, accommodating, and discreet. Croach, she never actually said what that meant. Just kept using these vague corporate phrases, and then she said the thing that made my stomach drop. Clients may request additional personal attention. You are expected to respond to these requests professionally and without complaint. NDA, and the way she said reasonable, like that word had been gutted and stuffed with something else entirely. I raised my hand, Tipu, like I was still in a classroom where questions were allowed, and I asked what kind of requests. And the room went so quiet I could hear the air conditioning. The British. Woman smiled, not with her eyes, just her mouth. And she said, "You'll be briefed individually as needed." That was it. No answer. Just dismissal. That night, first night on the island, they brought us to this dinner, outdoor terrace, ocean view, candles everywhere. And there were men, maybe 15 of them, all older, 50s, 60s, wearing expensive watches and linen shirts. And they looked at us in a way that made me want to disappear. MDA. We were told to sit with them, laugh at their jokes, accept drinks. I nursed one glass of wine for 2 hours because I was terrified of being impaired around these men. This one guy, American, gray hair, wedding ring, he put his hand on my leg under the table, just placed it there like he owned that part of me. And I froze, completely froze. Didn't push it away, didn't say anything. Just sat there with this scream building in my chest, and he leaned close and whispered, "You're going to be very popular here." And his breath smelled like cigars, and I thought I was going to be sick right there. After dinner, I went back to the dormitory and tried to leave. Wanted to go down to the dock, get on a boat, Tipa, just escape. But when I got to the dock, there were no boats. All 3 were gone. Just empty spaces where they'd been that afternoon. And there was a guard, young guy, local probably. And he smiled at me and said, "Looking for something?" And I said, "Just getting air." And he said, "Air's better up by the house, safer." And that word, safer, like the island itself was dangerous. Like something might happen to me if I wandered too far from the mansion where the cameras were. I went back to the room. One of the girls was crying in her bunk, quiet, crying, trying to hide it. I asked her what was wrong, and she said, nothing, just homesick. But her makeup was smeared and there were marks on her wrist that looked painful. I didn't push. I was too scared to know the truth. The work started the next day. They gave us uniforms, white dresses, thin material, house policy, tipu, and we had to serve lunch by the pool. The men were there in swim trunks, day drinking, and we'd bring them drinks and food, and they'd touch our waists, our hips, and the British woman was watching from the shade. And if you resisted, if you pulled away too obviously, she'd catch your eye and shake her head, just slightly, a warning. One girl, she stood up for herself when a guy crossed a line, and they took her inside. She came back an hour later with red eyes and wouldn't speak to anyone. And at dinner, she wasn't there. Her bunk was empty that night, Mindy, and no one asked where she went. We all just understood. Some mornings you don't need explain. The parties got worse. Night 3, night 4. They'd bring us to these rooms, private rooms in different wings of the mansion, and there'd be music playing loud enough to drown everything else out. And the men would make their selections, and you'd be escorted over, and you'd go along with it. Karochi, because what was the alternative? Swim home, fight your way through armed guards. We were on an island with no phones, no boats, no help. I got chosen on night 5. This man, expensive cologne, confident walk. He led me to a bedroom and closed the door, and I just stood there shaken. Tipa, full body tremors I couldn't control. And he smiled like that was entertaining, like my fear was part of the experience. And he told me to pour him a drink from the bar cart, and I did, hands shaking so hard I spilled bourbon on the white carpet. And he said, "You're new." And I nodded. And he said, "Good. I like new. MDN." And the way he said it made every instinct in my body go cold. And then he gestured toward the furniture like he expected me to stay. But then, this is the thing that saved me that night. Another man knocked on the door, needed the first guy for some important call. And he left, just stood up and left me there, told me to stay, don't move. But as soon as the door closed, I ran back to the dormitory, locked myself in the bathroom. One of the girls found me there at 3 a.m., still sitting on the floor. The next morning, they moved me to a different rotation, cleaning duty, which I thought was a demotion, but turned out to be a gift. Tipa, because I wasn't in the party rooms anymore. I was cleaning offices, bedrooms, conference spaces during the day when the clients were out on yachts or golf courses. And that's when I found the files. It was day 7, maybe day 8. Time was already getting weird. I was told to clean this office in the East Wing. Big mahogany desk, computer, filing cabinets. And one cabinet was unlocked, just slightly open. And I'm not a snoop normally, but something made me look, maybe instinct, maybe desperation. MDA. I opened the drawer. Manila folders, maybe 30 of them, labeled with names. And I recognized them. Tipa, I recognize these names. Politicians, CEOs, celebrities, people I'd seen on TV, in newspapers. And I opened one, just one. And there were photos of things that shouldn't exist, things that proved what this place really was. And there were documents, contracts, NDAs, payment receipts. Karoch, this wasn't random. This was organized, systematic. There was a folder labeled compromat. I didn't know that word then. Looked it up later. Russian term for compromising material used to exert leverage over powerful people. These men were being photographed deliberately, and someone was keeping records. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the folder, MDA, and that's when I saw the camera in the office, little red light blinking. They were watching me find this. They knew, but I'd already seen it, so I kept Looking, I found a disposable camera in a desk drawer, the kind tourists use, and I took photos of the files, maybe 15 pictures. Didn't even check if there was film in it, just clicked and hoped. I put everything back exactly how I found it. Closed the cabinet, left the office, and I felt this weight settle on my chest like someone was standing on my rib cage. Because now I knew, Tipu, I knew what this place was. Not a hospitality job, a trap, a blackmail operation, and we were the bait. That night, I tried to tell the other girls, whispered it after lights out, and 2 of them believed me, and we made a plan. Stupid, desperate plan. We'd steal one of the boats. Middle of the night when the guards did their rotation change. There was a 6-minute window we'd timed, and we'd just go motor to the nearest island. Didn't matter where. Anywhere but here. We waited until 2 a.m., snuck out through a window in the bathroom, ran down to the dock, and there was a boat. Keys in the ignition. Because why would they need to lock them? Who was going to steal them? Us, apparently. We got in, started the engine, and the sound was so loud in the dark it was like a gunshot. And we just went, didn't untie the rope properly, just gunned it, and the rope snapped and we were moving. Maybe we got 200 meters from shore, maybe less. Tipa, far enough to see the island getting smaller, to feel like maybe we'd actually done it. And then the searchlights hit us, 3 of them, bright as daylight. And I could see security boats coming from both sides of the island. Fast, so fast. We tried to go faster, but our boat was small, slow, and they caught us in maybe 90 seconds. They didn't hurt us. That's the thing I remember most clearly. No violence, no yelling, just business-like efficiency. Pulled us out of the boat, back onto their boat, brought us to the dock, and the British woman was there at 2 a.m. in full business suit like she'd been waiting, and she looked at us with this expression that wasn't even angry, just disappointed, like we'd failed a test she expected us to fail. She said, "Take them to separation," and they separated us. Each of us went different directions. I was brought back to the dormitory alone, and I never saw those girls again. Their bunks were empty the next morning. Their belongings gone, like they'd never existed, and no one would tell me where they went. And the silence was louder than any answer could have been. I was brought to the British woman's office that afternoon. She sat behind her desk and studied me for a long time without speaking, and then she said, "You're going to a party tonight?" And I said no. First time I'd said no out loud, and she smiled. Genuine smile this time, like I'd finally done something interesting. "Yes," she said, "you are. Someone specifically requested you." And the way she said specifically, I knew I was being punished. They prepared me. That's the word they used. Preparation. Other girls doing my makeup, my hair, putting me in this specific dress, white, expensive. And I was crying the whole time, asking them to stop to help me. And they wouldn't look at me, just kept working silently like I was a doll. And then guards, 2 of them, walked me through the mansion, down hallways I hadn't seen before, deeper into the east wing. We stopped at a door, heavy wood, brass handle, and I could hear sounds from inside. Music, voices, and someone crying. Tipa, quiet crying. The kind you do when you've already given up hope, when your body doesn't know what else to do. And the guard knocked, and the music got quieter, and someone said, "Come in." The guard opened the door, and I saw the room. Low lighting, expensive furniture, and men, 3 of them, and one was NDA. I recognized him from the files, from the photos. Important man, very important. I can't say the name, legal reasons, safety reasons, but you'd know him if I did. You'd know his face from television. And he looked at me, really looked at me, studied my face. And I saw the exact moment he realized I was looking back, not just seeing him, but recognizing him. And his expression changed, pleasure to confusion, to something cold and calculating. And he said, "You know who I am." Not a question, a statement. And I was so scared I couldn't even shake my head. Just stood there frozen. And that's when I made the worst decision of my life. Tipu. I thought I was being smart. I thought I was saving myself. I screamed his full name, his title, screamed that I'd seen the files, that I'd already sent photos to someone outside the island, that people knew where I was. All lies. I had no photos sent. No one knew. But I was desperate and stupid and 19. The room went completely silent. The music stopped. The other men stepped back. And this important man's face, MD. It went from shock to rage to ice cold calm in about 3 seconds. And he said very quietly, so quietly I had to strain to hear, "You weren't supposed to know who I am." Security came in, fast, grabbed my arms, and the important man was speaking rapid fire to the British woman who'd appeared from somewhere. And I heard fragments. Containment. Verification. Time-sensitive situation. They were problem solving. I was a problem, and they were solving me. The British woman looked at me and said, "Did you really send photos?" And I said, "Yes," still committed to the lie. And she said, "To whom?" And I made up a name. Sarah said she was my roommate. Sarah has everything. If I don't check in, she'll go to the police. Tipa, creative fiction from a terrified teenager. They took me out of that room, down different hallways, stairs going down, and the temperature dropped with each step, from air-conditioned comfort to damp coolness to cold, and then there was a smell, mildew and earth and something else. Something that smelled like fear. We were in a basement, concrete walls, exposed, pipes, single light bulb, and there was a door, metal door, industrial, the kind you see in places where bad things happen. 7 locks. I counted them as they opened them. 7 different clicking sounds. And then the door swung open and there was just darkness, complete darkness. No light at all. NDA. And they pushed me inside, not hard, just firmly. And I stumbled on the concrete floor and the door closed behind me. 7 locks clicking again, and the darkness swallowed everything. At first, Tipa, I thought it was temporary, an hour, maybe overnight, some kind of scare tactic. I could handle overnight. I told myself I could handle overnight. I felt around the space with my hands, concrete floor, cold, damp, walls on all sides, maybe 2 meters by 3 meters, a bucket in one corner. I didn't want to think about what the bucket was for. There was nothing else. No bed, no blanket, no light source, just concrete and darkness and the sound of my own breathing getting faster. I banged on the door, screamed until my voice completely gave out, screamed for help, screamed for my mother. Emda. No one answered. Not a sound from outside. The walls must have been thick, soundproofed. My screams just died in the darkness like they'd never existed. I don't know when I stopped screaming. Time was already doing weird things. Could have been an hour, could have been 6. My voice gave out eventually, just completely gone. And I sat with my back against the wall and tried to think, tried to make a plan. But my brain kept sliding away from thoughts like ice melting. I was so thirsty, my throat raw from screaming, and scared. Tipa, I've never known fear like that. The kind that lives in your bone marrow. They brought food. I think someone opened the door a crack. Light blinding, even though it was just dim hallway light, shoved a tray inside, closed the door again, all in maybe 3 seconds, not long enough for me to see anything, to run, to do anything but shield my eyes. So the tray had bread, water, something that might have been soup. I felt for it in the dark, knocked it over, spent what felt like hours trying to find the water bottle in the spill. When I found it, I drank the whole thing in 30 seconds and immediately threw up. The worst part about darkness, complete darkness, is that you can't tell if your eyes are open or closed. Emda? I'd open my eyes, close them, open them. No difference. And your brain starts inventing light, little sparks and patterns and shapes that aren't there. Your optic nerve firing randomly because it's desperate for input. But in the moment I thought I was seeing things, ghosts, demons, my own mind, leaving my body. I try to sleep, but sleep in complete darkness is different. Tipa, you drift in and out and can't tell which is which. Dreams and waking blend together. I dream I was out of the basement and wake up and still be in darkness and not know if I was awake now or still dreaming. Time stopped meaning anything. They brought food sometimes, no pattern I could find. Sometimes it felt like hours between meals, sometimes like days. I tried to count, but I kept losing track. My body stopped feeling like mine. I'd touch my face and be surprised by the sensation. Like those were someone else's features, someone else's skin, MD. I forgot what I looked like. Couldn't picture my own face in my mind. Started to forget other faces too. My mother's face, gone. Just a blur where her features should be. My roommate, my professors, my own reflection, all gone, swallowed by the dark. The hallucination started. Don't know when. Time was soup by then. I saw lights that weren't there, entire rooms appearing in the darkness, windows showing ocean views. I saw my mother sitting next to me, felt her hand on my shoulder, heard her voice telling me everything would be okay. And I knew it wasn't real, but I talked to her anyway. Had full conversations with a hallucination because I needed to hear a kind voice, even if it was my own mind creating it. I talked to myself, constant narration. I'm touching the wall now. The wall is cold. I'm walking to the bucket. 13 steps. I'm sitting down now. Tipu. If I stopped talking, I felt like I might disappear entirely, like the darkness would digest me. So I talked and talked until my broken voice was just whispers and croaks. I sang songs, nursery rhymes, anything I could remember, the alphabet backward, prime numbers, anything to prove I was still a person. Who knew things? Then they came for me, don't know how many times. The interrogations. The door would open, blinding light, hands grabbing me, dragging me out because I couldn't walk. My legs had forgotten how. They'd put me in a chair. Spotlight in my eyes. Couldn't see them. Just silhouettes and voices. MND. Always the same questions. Who did you send the photos to? What's their contact information? What exactly did you see? Who have you told? And I'd answer, tell them everything. The lie about Sarah, made up her phone number, her address, her email. But they didn't believe me. Or maybe they did and didn't care. They said they'd checked. No one named Sarah lived at my university, which was true because I made her up. So I changed the story, said it was my cousin, gave a different name. They said they'd investigate, took me back to the basement, darkness again. After one interrogation, they gave me something without warning, didn't explain what it was. And then everything shifted dramatically. The disorientation got way worse. Tipu. Everything became overwhelming. Sensory distortions I still can't fully describe. My mind going to places I'd never experienced. I don't know how long that lasted. Hours, days. Time was shattered glass by then. Reality and nightmare bleeding into each other until I couldn't tell the difference. I started losing language. Words would leave me. Simple words. Door, light, help. They'd dissolve in my mouth before I could say them. I'd try to remember the word for mother and just make sounds. Any, my own language, leaving me like water through fingers. And that's when I knew I was really breaking. Not just scared, not just traumatized, actually breaking into pieces that wouldn't fit back together. There was a voice at some point, I don't know when, coming from somewhere, maybe the next room, maybe through the pipes, maybe nowhere at all. And we talked, whispered to each other through the wall, and that voice told me things. How to survive. Don't sleep too long. Keep counting. Anything. Just keep your brain working. They're checking your story when they know for sure it'll either get better or much worse. Tipa, that voice was my anchor. The only real thing in the darkness. Except I don't know if it was real. I've never known MDA because later when I got out, I asked about other rooms, other prisoners, and they said there was just me, just my room. No other rooms in that part of the basement, but I heard it. I know I heard it, didn't I? I started counting everything, counted my heartbeats, got to 10,000 and lost track and started over. Counted breaths, counted steps from wall to wall, 13 of my steps. I made marks with my fingernails, scratches in the concrete, trying to count days, 1 mark per meal. But the meals weren't regular, so the marks meant nothing. I counted them anyway, 21 marks, 21 days, but it could have been 10, could have been 50. My count could have been completely wrong. My body stopped working right. I stopped eating at some point. The food would come and I'd smell it and feel nothing. No hunger, no desire, just indifference. M-Day, it piled up in the corner, rotting. The smell was terrible, but I stopped noticing after a while. Stopped noticing a lot of things, the cold, the damp. Dignity was a luxury and I had none left. I forgot who I was. Tipa literally forgot. They'd ask me during interrogations, what's your name? And I couldn't answer. The information was gone. I knew I had a name, knew I was a person who'd had a life somewhere outside the darkness. But the details were smoke. I couldn't remember what I looked like, where I was from, what I was studying. Someone asked me, who's your emergency contact? And I said, I don't have one. Not because it was true, but because I genuinely couldn't remember having anyone who'd missed me. There was a moment, I don't know when in the timeline, when I just gave up completely, empty. I lay down on the concrete floor and thought, okay, this is it. I have nothing left. And something in me just went quiet because fighting was so exhausting and letting go felt easier. I closed my eyes, or maybe they were already closed, couldn't tell. And I just stopped trying, stopped caring what came next. But then that voice, or the hallucination of that voice, or my own voice pretending, said, not yet, just a little longer. And I don't know why, but I listened. Tipa, I sat back up, started counting again. 1, 2, 3, 4. The door opened, not for interrogation, different. There were different people. Someone said, get her cleaned up, and hands pulled me out. The light was agony, actual physical pain in my eyes. I covered my face with my hands, but even through my fingers it burned. And I tried to ask about the voice, about the other room, but no one answered. They pulled me down the hallway and I saw there was no next room, just a wall, solid concrete wall. MDA, it was never there. I've been talking to myself the whole time. They hosed me down, cold water, rough hands. no privacy. I couldn't stand, so they propped me against a wall. I lost so much weight my bones were visible under my skin. My legs didn't work. Muscles atrophied from the small space. They gave me clothes, gray sweatpants, t-shirt, too big, hung off me like a child playing dress up. They brought me to a different room, office. The British woman was there. She looked at me without expression and said, "There was no Sarah, no cousin, no photo sent. We verified this." And I just nodded, too tired to be scared anymore. She said, "You've been very expensive, very problematic. The question now is what to do with you." I waited for her to say it, waited for the end, but instead she said, "You're leaving the island tonight." I didn't understand, couldn't process it. Leaving meant alive, and I'd accepted being dead. She explained, emotionless, clinical. The important man I'd screamed at was gone, left the island days ago. His people had done damage control, discredited me preemptively in case I ever talked, painted me as unstable, using substances, delusional. Insurance, she called it. And since I hadn't actually sent photos, hadn't actually told anyone, I was just a mess to clean up. Not a real threat. I'd saved my own life by lying, and then they discovered the lie, and that somehow also saved me, because I wasn't important enough to be worth the risk. They flew me back that night. Private plane again. Just me and 2 guards who didn't speak. We landed somewhere in Florida. They put me in a car, drove me to a motel, gave me $2,000 cash and a phone number. If you speak to anyone, police, media, anyone, we'll know. And we'll make sure no one believes you. And we'll make sure you disappear properly next time. Then they left. Just drove away. And I was standing in a Motel 6 parking lot in Fort Lauderdale at 3 a.m. with $2,000 in trauma so heavy I could barely breathe. I called my mother. First call I made. Her number was the only thing I could remember. She answered on the first ring, crying before I even said hello. I'd been missing for 5 weeks. She'd filed police reports, hired a private investigator, called every hospital, NDA. I tried to tell her what happened, and I couldn't. The words wouldn't come. I just cried. We both just cried on the phone for probably an hour. She flew down the next day, picked me up, didn't ask questions when she saw me, just held me. I weighed 93 pounds. I'd lost almost 35 pounds. My hair was falling out in clumps. I had sores on my skin from lying on concrete. I couldn't look at light without sunglasses. Couldn't be in small spaces without hyperventilating. Couldn't sleep with the door closed. I never went to the police, the number they gave me. I called it once, just to see. It was disconnected. But I got the message. They were watching. They had resources, connections, power I couldn't fight. Who was I? A broke college dropout with a story no one would believe and no evidence. They'd already planted seeds, told people I'd run away, lost touch with reality, had a breakdown, and I had no proof otherwise. The disposable camera, the one I'd used to photograph the files, I never got it developed, too scared. I threw it in a dumpster somewhere in Florida. Sometimes I wish I'd kept it. Most of the time, I'm glad I didn't. Because what would I have done with it? Who would I have shown? And what would they have done to me if I had? I didn't go back to university. Couldn't be around people. Couldn't function. I moved back in with my mother. Spent 2 years barely leaving the house. Therapy helped. Medications helped. Time helped a little. NDA. But I'm not fixed. You don't fix this. You just learn to carry it. I still can't be in the dark. Sleep with every light in my house on. My electricity bill is insane. I still count things obsessively. Steps, breaths, heartbeats. Still sometimes forget words. Still hear that voice sometimes, even though I know it wasn't real. Or wasn't there, or was just me. I don't even know anymore. The important man I screamed at. He's still important, still powerful. I see him on the news sometimes, and I have to leave the room or I'll be sick. The British woman. No idea. Probably still recruiting girls with promises of easy money. The island. It doesn't exist anymore. I looked it up. The whole estate was sold, demolished, like it never happened. Convenient, right? Erase the evidence, erase the crime. And here's the thing that keeps me up at night. The thing I can't stop thinking about. Those other girls, the ones who tried to escape with me. I never found out what happened to them. Looked for their names online, in missing persons databases, obituaries. Nothing. It's like they never existed. And maybe that's the point. Maybe that's how it works. You disappear and the world just closes over the space where you were, like water and Marie, and no one even knows to look. I'm 24 now, 5 years later, and I'm telling this story because I don't know why, because it happened, because it's still happening, because there are girls right now on islands, in basements, in darkness, counting days and losing their names, and no one's coming for them. No one even knows they're gone. I got out because I wasn't important enough to be worth the risk. How messed up is that? I survived because I was worthless to them. Sometimes I still hear that voice in quiet moments, telling me just a little longer. And I don't know if it was real or if my brain created it to keep me alive. But either way, Tipu, either way it saved me, or I saved myself. Or the darkness just decided to spit me back out. I'll never know which. I still have nightmares about the 7 locks clicking shut one by one. I still wake up not knowing if my eyes are open. I still forget my own face sometimes. Day, the darkness took things from me I'll never get back. Language, memory, the ability to feel safe. But I'm here. I'm alive. I'm telling you this. And if you're in darkness right now, whatever kind, if you're counting days and losing yourself, just hold on a little longer. Just a little longer. Because that voice told me that, whether it was real or not, and I'm telling you, and maybe that's all we can do. Just pass the message forward. Stay alive a little longer. Count one more heartbeat, one more breath. 21 days, or 50, or 10. I'll never know how long I was really down there. But I know I came back. Most of me. Enough of me. And that has to be enough. Tipa, what else can it be? You either survive or you don't. And I survived. And now I have to figure out what to do with that. With this broken version of myself that came back from the darkness. With these memories I can't forget and can't fully remember. With this story that's mine, but doesn't feel like mine anymore. But I'm here. MD. I'm still here. Still counting. Still breathing. Still trying to remember my own name on the days when it slips away. And maybe that's enough. Maybe just being here. Just surviving. Maybe that's the whole point. I don't know. I'm still figuring it out. 5 years later, and I'm still figuring it out. But at least I'm figuring it out in the light. At least I'm not in that basement anymore. At least the darkness didn't keep me forever. And if you hear this, if this story finds you somehow, just know you're not alone. Whatever darkness you're in, you're not alone. I was there. I came back. And you can too. Just a little longer. Just hold on a little longer.